I could have Charles Lindley come up front, please. So several of you know Charles. Charles was a volunteer for the fire department for a little over 22 years, I think. Middle of last year, he had some unforeseen complications and had to retire a little bit before he really wanted to. But we appreciate his dedication and his service. Charles made majority of the calls, night or day, holidays, whatever. So on behalf of the department and the city, present you with this act. Reads Captain Charles Lindley in appreciation of 22 years of dedicated service given to the Case Springs Fire Department and the community you serve. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for December 16th and January 13th. Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes? Got a motion by JJ. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Jeremy. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. And that passed. Next item is financial reports, and we've got Carl here to address that.
So I don't have a whole lot of news to tell you other than we're progressing. We have one more big mountain to climb, and that is making sure that payroll for 2025 is processed and posted properly. Thank you. So, and I expect that'll be done this month. I have to lay out a spreadsheet of all the payrolls and then tie them back to the each department line by line. So that's the last thing that's left to do, and then we'll know exactly what doesn't recognize.
Any questions? Thank you. Do I hear a motion to table both sets of financials for another month?
So moved.
Got a motion by Mike. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Jeremy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign, and that passed. Next is the department head reports. Fire department.
Assume everybody got a copy of our report. Was there any questions or thoughts, concerns? Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Police.
Just like he said, you guys got a copy of our activity reports in there. If you guys got any questions, nothing new or has happened other than a little bit of snow, but other than that.
Any questions? Thank you. Next is the January Planning Commission.
Good evening. This was supposed to be a few weeks ago, but we did not have a planning commission meeting. The last work session was canceled, so therefore the last planning meeting that was supposed to be last night was postponed due to lack of business. The only items that is coming before y'all is the ones we've already talked about a couple times. That rezoning up on Farrar Lane, Farrar Road, Bond property. I think everyone's fairly familiar with that. Once we get there, if you have any questions, we'd be glad to review that again. We're still continuing to work on the zoning code update. Met with Garver last week. We're meeting with them again this week. We're going to try and have a portion of the code ready to start taking to the planning commission, to start going over some different things with them. We've kind of ironed out a lot of soft details, so now we're going to kind of get into areas where it's maybe we have some questions and some of the things we wanted their input on. You know, obviously they're going to get their input on everything, but just before we even started making some decisions on things. So, if there's anything else, I mean, it's fairly slow this time of year, you know, when we get into the winter months with development, but we've still got lots of projects underway with, you know, some different groups already, you know, this month, looking at, you know, different development projects. So there's still plenty of interest and still a lot going on. So, unless y'all have any questions, that is all I have. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Next item is water and sewer report.
Hello, everyone. So I'll start with the open work orders. We currently just have 4 open work orders. One of those is one of the larger projects that we're doing this year, and that's installing air relief valves all across the system. This one's going to be over on Midway at the High Point, but as we have time in our schedule, we're planning on installing quite a few across the distribution system to help with any air issues that we may have. The other work orders that we have are kind of small things: a shut off and lock a meter. Someone moved out, and replacing a tree that was damaged when we installed a main line. Staffing, we're fully staffed. We finally got someone hired. He's already doing great. He had some heavy machinery operating experience. He hadn't operated a heavy machine in 15 years, but he picked it right up, and he's already proven himself to be a valuable asset. So very pleased with him so far. Hopping over to the water loss report, as y'all can see, we jumped up significantly from 45% last month to 71% this month. And that's due to losing more water, but also selling about half of what we sold in November. We fixed quite a few leaks, and there were some pretty substantial leaks on the ones that we fixed, but that still puts us, if you do the math, it's about 46% unaccounted for water loss, so it's still pretty high. Addressing that, so I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but McClellan has a water master plan. We've talked about for the past year, you know, potentially installing pressure reducing valves and air relief valves. That kind of provides more detail as to what the engineers are proposing. But in the day-to-day, we're taking bites out of the problem as we can. We're fixing leaks as quick as we can find them, but the problem is the leaks that aren't surfacing. And so we circle back to the same issue we've been having. So, do you have any questions for me?
I have a question.
Yep.
With the meters that were replaced, I just thought of this, otherwise I asked you earlier, but so your meters are replaced, and some of us that have those, you know, the circle that's on top, and when you replace the meter, it leaves an open hole.
Mm-hmm.
And now with the cold weather, what's the probability of that meter freezing up?
Well, with this,
Do we need to plug those as a city? Is it a concern at all with the dropping temperatures this time of year?
yeah, it's hard to say how much of an increase that would cause in freezing with the snow. If you get a blanket of snow, it typically insulates those boxes.
That the snow goes in.
But yeah, if there's no snow and it's just freezing cold temperatures, then I could see that potentially being a problem. Like I said, it's hard to say how much of a factor that would be.
Look into that
Sure.
and kind of figure out your professional opinion on how much they can take.
Yeah.
Because if it's like freezing rain, you know, the water's going to go in.
Yeah. We, surprisingly, with these cold temperatures, we only got 3 or 4 calls about a frozen meter, and that was because there was no lid at all. And so,
And then next door to a meteorologist, and he recommended covering that. So we had our bags of mulch out there.
okay, yes.
In our neighborhood.
Yeah.
In our neighbors. So, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll look into it, definitely.
Thanks.
Before we get started with the engineer's report, let's go ahead and we went by the financials a few minutes ago, and I don't have any agenda for the financial report, but we do have Jake here that brought the audit report with him, the final. Would you like to address it a moment and at this time?
Thanks, Will.
Thank you, Will.
I'm Jake Fremsdorf. I'm a partner at Landmark CPAs. We have the agreed upon procedures report completed. You should have one there in front of you. One of the things I want to make sure to address, the word audit has been thrown out a lot. This was an agreed upon procedures. It is an attest function. It is not at the level of an audit. An audit is the premier attest function where you are going in, reviewing in pretty good detail the financial statements, and you're making an opinion on the accuracy of those financial statements. This was an agreed upon procedures. It's narrow in scope. It is focused in on certain items, certain procedures that were requested of us. It's basically a fact-finding mission. We go find the facts about those procedures and then report back on those. So just want to make sure and be clear that it is not an audit. We're not expressing any opinion on the financial statements. We're providing those factual findings. We are independent of the city in order to do these agreed upon procedures. I'm not going to read through the entire report, but I will go through each one of the procedures and just kind of at a high level talk about some of the findings that we had, or if there were no findings in those procedures. There were a total of 8 procedures that we were requested to complete. Procedure number 1, I'm going to try and go through most of this in as layman terms as possible. We were comparing the taxes that were paid to the taxes that were due. So we took the bank statements and the payroll registers. So the payroll registers came from the city's CenterPoint software. That's kind of the truth, so to speak, as far as what people were paid, what taxes were withheld, what deductions were taken, and so forth. So we compared the bank statements of what taxes were paid for federal income taxes, compared those to the payroll register of federal income taxes, Social Security, and Medicare. In that same procedure, we compared the 941 payroll reports. Those are quarterly payroll reports. We compared what was reported to the IRS on those 941s to the payroll registers. We utilized 941s and IRS transcripts to make those comparisons. We had to pull some IRS transcripts. We had pulled account transcripts and we pulled tax transcripts. They provide different levels of detail regarding information that was originally reported to the IRS on those tax returns, and also the payments, not just the payments that were made by the city, but also any adjustments that the IRS may have made, any penalties that were assessed, any transfers of payments to other quarters, other periods, tax periods. The account transcript covers all of that. We also looked at the timeliness of filing and timeliness of payments. We used IRS transcripts and bank statements to make those determinations. We did have exceptions in Procedure 1. I'll go through just a few of those exceptions that we found. The details are on page 2 of the report, which is actually about 3 or 4 pages in, but page 2 of the text. Procedure 1, our findings, we had 31 total quarters that we reviewed. 12 of those periods, the payroll forms were not timely filed. The 941s were not timely filed. Those are due a month following the end of a quarter. So they're due by the end of the following month. 17 quarters had at least one payment that was not timely paid. There were an additional 9 quarters where we could not determine the timeliness of filing. We were utilizing some of the IRS transcripts, and they had some conflicting dates on their transcripts, so we could not determine. Basically, we did not count those in ones that were not timely filed. We left those aside. We had 15 quarters that were not accurately filed, meaning the 941 that was filed did not match the payroll register. The numbers were different. Generally, when we found those, it was filed with the first 2 pay periods of the quarter, or maybe the first 2 months of the quarter, not the full quarter. There were 6 quarters that had duplicate Form 941s filed. Generally, if you have to make a correction to a 941, you would file a 941X, which is an amended 941. There were 6 quarters that Landmark ultimately filed amended returns. Some of those are still in process with the IRS. And the total penalties, we were asked to add up the total penalties as part of this procedure. The total penalties incurred to date are $118,000 to the date of the report, or $118,696.48. We do anticipate additional penalties based on some additional taxes that are due. I believe there's a resolution today that will cover the remainder of the taxes. Procedure 2, we did a similar comparison. We compared the bank statements to the payroll registers, looking at Arkansas wage withholding, which is what withholding from employees that then is paid into the state of Arkansas. Those are paid in on a monthly basis by the 15th of the month following the previous month. We did find exceptions in that procedure. There's more specifics in the report as far as what we found. There were a couple of payments that were missed, a few that were late, not quite as significant as in the 941 payments, but there were a few. Procedure 3, we compared the APRS paid to APRS due. Again, this was another bank statement comparison back to the payroll registers. We did find some exceptions. That is in the report. Each of the procedures that we have in the report also have an exhibit that follows. It's basically all the numbers, the dates, the amounts, the timing, and so forth to support these findings. Some of these procedures, I'm not going into the exceptions. The exceptions basically are if there was something that was not paid timely, if it didn't match, that would trigger an exception. And just because it says there's an exception doesn't mean that every single transaction was an exception, just that there were some found in that period. There's more detail in the report than I'm giving here in the overview. Procedure number 4, again, was an APRS comparison. We looked at the state mandated percentages for the employee and the employer contributions for both employee bases, for non-elected and elected employees. We utilized the APRS published data and compared those back to the payroll registers. We basically recalculated those percentages through the payroll registers. We did find a few exceptions there, not a lot, but we did find a few. Those are noted in a table in our findings. Procedure 5, we looked at the SEMRP deductions. We looked at what the insurance company provided as far as what the deductions should be and matched those up to the payroll registers. Really the only exception that was found there is more related to the way that the procedure was originally written. We were asked to find the payments for the SEMRP insurance, and really the only payments that were made behind that insurance were the actual policies for accidental death and dismemberment, cancer, and so forth. Those were the only insurance policies that would have been paid under that. So it was really the exception was in how the procedure was originally written. Procedure 6, we were looking to identify any journal entries that lack supporting documentation. We did not find any exceptions in that area. Procedure 7, we looked to identify anomalies in posting and accounting treatment of payroll processing. That was originally defined as finding the journal entries. CenterPoint does not use journal entries to post payroll transactions. It uses some other accounting methods for posting those. So we still followed through and looked at how things were posted, and essentially it's, for lack of a better term, it's the mapping of all the payroll activity, or the wages going to salary, or the taxes that need to be paid going to a liability to be paid. So we looked at all of those. For the most part, those were in good shape, but there was one exception that was found. It was related to the SEMRP. There was a liability that was created that should have actually been an offset to expenses. That was the only exception that we found with the actual account code mapping for payroll. The final procedure was procedure 8. This was to attempt to identify any anomalies in the posting and accounting treatment in liability accounts. There's a table at the very end of the report that shows all of the liability accounts kind of a year over year from the beginning of the report 2018 through almost the end of 2025. There were exceptions found here. Some of the exceptions that we found, give them a second to go by. Some of the exceptions we found, there were invoices that were never applied to relieve a growing liability. This was a Cigna liability. There was never any invoice to relieve that liability. It grew over a period of a couple of years. There were assets that were purchased, and those were posted in as liabilities. Assets would typically be capital outlays on the income statement. We had some duplicate accounts that served the same purpose. The same transactions were posted to multiple accounts. Interest expense was not separately stated on loan payments. It was posted as one total payment for both principal and interest. And then we found some payments that were recorded using the wrong vendor attached to them. The ones we found, that sounds like a strange finding to have, where the wrong vendor was attached to a payment, because if you enter it into the system and then maybe write a check, you think you're going to write the check to the wrong person, because who's attached to it is the vendor. These were electronic payments. So these were drafts. This was particularly one of them that I can recall was an IRS payment that was entered into the system as being paid to the Arkansas Department of Finance Administration, which is the state. So that one, it was correctly paid to the IRS, but it was posted in the system incorrectly. That summarizes the report itself. Kind of outside of the agreed upon procedures, I did have some additional information that I wanted to share. We have 2 engagements currently with the city. One of them is a consulting type bookkeeping assistance. And under that engagement, I've put together an analysis that is slightly different than the agreed upon procedures. The agreed upon procedures goes in and looks what happened within the city, within the city's books, within the bank statements. This was looking back at all of the IRS transcripts and trying to say, okay, where are we at now? We had quarters that the IRS took payments that were proper payments for that quarter, and the IRS took it and moved it to another quarter because they didn't have a 941 that showed the correct numbers. So I went back through and looked at everything that the IRS showed that was outstanding, everything that we knew was correct from the payroll registers, to try to say, what's the bottom line, right? And I think that's probably a question each of you have, is what's the bottom line, what's remaining, what's left? There are several credits on accounts for different quarters. There are several amounts due on different quarters. But when you tally it all up right now, as we stand, it looks like the IRS is owed $54,747.10. And that goes all the way back to the beginning of 2018. That gets the city entirely caught up on any back taxes for payroll taxes. Specifically federal income tax withholdings, Social Security, and Medicare. The IRS shows that there is a large credit. The reason the IRS shows that there is a large credit is because the IRS has not processed all of the amended 941s that have been filed and the most recent 941 for Q4 of 25. As soon as all of those get processed through, the IRS's information will balance with what we show here. I recommended to the mayor that he make those payments, which you guys will decide on later. To get us trued up, basically we're going to apply those to the 2 quarters that the balances are actually due. I believe we'll be working with the IRS to allocate any credits to other periods that amounts are due, and then everything hopefully will be settled. Any questions?
Yeah, I'm not sure how to address it. It concerns the credits and older deposits. I'm looking at a print that we got initially on the first quarter of 25. And it was showing a credit of 144,000. And I looked at your tax was 62,000. And I looked at your worksheet, and the actual tax should have been 112, 651.25, but that still leaves an overpayment on that quarter that the IRS is probably going to move as an overpayment.
Correct. Specifically to that quarter, for Q1 of 2025, it is a bit of a moving target. You know, as we're submitting 941s that are amended, the IRS actually processed some 941s that were, you know, the second or third 941 that had been filed for that quarter. They actually accepted those as an amended 941 in 2 quarters. So they got updated numbers. So as we've been going through this exercise, the IRS has been updating their numbers as well. But the most recent numbers that we have in Q1 of 2025, actually our number agrees with the IRS's number because the IRS has processed the correct 941 for Q1 of 2025. We both show a credit of $93,907.54. That credit belongs to Q3 of 2024 and Q4 of 2024. So those are amounts that were supposed to be applied to prior quarters that were not. The IRS has moved those amounts. What had happened, one of the things that I saw happening within the IRS transcripts is that there would be a quarter that they would not get a 941 with all wages included. So it was low. It showed the tax amount to be low, but all the payments were made. So the IRS sees those as overpayments, and they take that money and they move it to another period. They took money from Q2 of 2025, and they pushed it forward. It's actually sitting in Q4 of 2025 currently. They took it out. They didn't have a 941 at that time. They said, well, there's nothing here. Let's move it forward. They moved it to Q3, and then moved it to Q4. So the IRS has been moving this money around at the same time we're trying to chase it down to make sure that all the quarters are accounted for properly. So that's what this last report that I put together shows, and I can get you a copy of it if you'd like. It's not part of the agreed upon procedures. It's a different report.
I'm trying to wrap my brain around why multiple deposits were made on a quarter that, in my mind, it appears to be applied back-to-back taxes for the government to move. That's what it appears to me, but that's me. Having done this.
Why would they not move it back to a prior period?
I'm saying that it appears that overstatement of overpayment of deposits in a particular quarter would be moved back. And I'm trying to comprehend why. I mean, that's why I believe that was done in my brain, is to apply back-to-back taxes.
I'm sure that probably was what was intended, but it just wasn't posted that way. Yeah.
Right.
Any other questions?
Yes. So under procedure 1, with $118,696.48. So is that what we have already paid the IRS?
Yes, that has been paid.
So, and that is in back payroll taxes, interest, penalties. That's our total we've paid so far.
Correct. Going back to the beginning of the report in 2018.
Okay. So then plus, to get caught up now, we have to pay $54,747.10, which would be the grand total then of us getting caught up of approximately, well, I added it together.
170-ish.
173,443.58.
Not necessarily. So the 118's already been paid. So
I mean
that's
total that the city has tried to catch up and correct since this all started.
to put it that way, yes.
That
The
like-
54 is true taxes that still need to be paid. Yes. And
So
the
that
118 is
would be our
penalties.
grand total that we paid in less than a year to get caught up.
No.
No.
The 118 is the penalties and interest.
Yes.
The The first check was 135. The second one was 20-something last month.
23 something.
Yeah, and then we've got the
It's not about
54.
135. I'll put it here for
And then
135.
what was the last one, 54?
This one's 54 tonight, but that's just the penalties and interest accrued that we've paid so far.
I don't have the number off the top of my head what's been paid in the last year, but it would be in the report and we could add that up. It should be in there as far as the payments.
Okay, so we're talking about the 135. Sorry.
At least through the report date, that would be in there.
Okay.
So there'll, wait, the 54 gets us caught up, and then there'll be some more penalties and interest besides that, but we don't know.
Because of that.
It hasn't been calculated yet.
Right.
That's, okay. So it's this, all those numbers plus another number.
I'm the 135.
Yeah, I got the 135. Yeah.
Do we lose the ability to go for a trust fund responsibility
Yeah, I'm
for
sorry.
the person responsible for paying these taxes if we pay the taxes?
Yes.
I think that's correct, and I think we wait. And I know we're gonna get to that point tonight, but once the city pays the taxes, we cannot get the trust fund responsibility back to the person responsible for paying the taxes. And I think words are important, and I don't talk very much, and I've let this sit here for a while. This is not an audit.
That's correct.
No, it's not.
This is, and that's what I want to clear up. It states very clearly what it is. Certain limited procedures with respect to cash facial financial information. This does not go back. This is, if you can't see it, you can Google it. This does not verify liabilities. It goes the ins and outs of cash basis accounting. It's almost not worth the paper it's coming on. And that's why most bigger cities do not use legislative audit, because you cannot get information in a timely manner. And it is not as thorough, and it is not as precise. So to say that you pass an audit without any findings, well, when you look at this on the pages, right here it says unaudited. So to stand on this in the back, I'm tired of people saying we passed an audit, we did not pass an audit. Clearly. And I'm adamant we don't pay these taxes tonight. Because the city doesn't deserve to pay the penalties when somebody was elected to do this job. Because I spent more hours than I felt like today looking at trust funds, and we've already paid all this stuff. I would rather wait for the interest and penalties to accrue a little bit and see if we can recoup some of this money. Because that 118 that we've already paid to date, we're not getting one penny of that back.
Once the taxes are paid,
There's nothing.
you cannot go in and assess the trust fund recovery.
Yeah, that's the conclusion I came to today. And to say that we haven't had no notices received, I got a notice to levy of $139 that I didn't pay in payroll tax in September. $139 notice to levy. So I'm not gonna believe that. I'm hesitant to pay the money because it wasn't our fault. That's gonna be all I say about that, but this is not, if anybody wants, you can Google it, you can look at it, unaudited, it says right there. And I think that that's one of the problems we probably had in the beginning when we say audit, we never had an audit. You know, and I think, thanks Jake for saying that in the beginning, words are important. I mean, you've got audits, compilations, reviews, and there's a triangle, right? You've got the thing that gives you the most accuracy and the most reliability, and this is not it. And spending the money to do this is it. And I'm glad we finally can hopefully get to the bottom of this, but I'm adamant that we sit and wait and see if we can recoup some of this money.
If we knew the non-trust fund amount, you could designate a check to the non-trust fund amount and leave the trust fund unpaid.
Yeah, I mean, if that's something we could do maybe for next meeting, but I think if we do it today, then write a check tomorrow. I mean, I'll pay the interest and penalties for 2 weeks.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yes.
Next is the engineer report.
Good evening. There's about 3 projects I want to had significant milestones since we last met. I want to mention on the water and sewer side, the first being the next sewer project. We've submitted a final request for reimbursement to NRD
And we've also prepared and sent a bond swap letter request to NRD, and that's been submitted. And so that's very close to being closed out. The next item is our sewer master plan that we worked on last year. At the end of last year, we got that submitted to the health department, and that was approved and accepted by the health department for record. And then Will kind of touched on it a bit. Last year, we were working on the water master plan study. We submitted that, completed that, submitted that to Will for comment and review. And Will mentioned the water loss. Several things in there that are highlighted that would improve water loss. First and foremost, the Highway 112 relocation projects. That's going to replace a lot of old lines that we use. And then, as Will mentioned, pressure reducing valves. That would basically lower the operating pressure of the entire system, which should help the water. Those are outlined in the report. I believe Will's got some comments, and so we get that back. I'll review, and we might discuss some more water super meeting. But once we're good with that, we'll also send it back to the health department for review acceptance. Any questions on the water and sewer stuff? There's one other project I wanted to mention was the traffic light, the traffic signal. That is the electrical service request that's submitted to SWEPCO. That's all we're waiting for. I know this week they were working on finishing up the push button fire station. Otherwise, we're just waiting on SWEPCO.
Anything else for him?
Where are we on the rate study for the water?
Yes, so the city submitted information to the rate study consultant, and we've been meeting about bi-weekly, catch up every week. The plan, we're going to be meeting next week with them. We have tentatively planned to get them coming down here next week and present it to the council. Likely at a work session.
Is there any more discussion about the water tower?
Yes, so that was actually a big proponent of our water master plan study. It's listed in the capital improvement project section of the report. We basically, through our study, we've evaluated that you guys likely need a 2 million gallon tank, and you likely need it in the next few years. We do include some cost estimates on all the projects listed in the capital improvement project.
Any other questions? Thank you. Next is attorney's report.
Good evening. A couple of items that are going to be coming forward. We have a short.
Have you got your push? Okay. It's not coming across.
Is it not coming across?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, I'll do it closer. So, good evening. It just dawned on me walking in here that we have a short 1 week to the work session. So, a couple of items that are coming up for the work session. Employment handbook revisions. That is going to be on your agenda coming forward sometime soon. Is going to be the ANRC bond swap. That's for the finishing up of the sewer project, the NAGA project. If you recall, that had financing from ANRC and also sales tax. There has to be a winding up of that and kind of the replacement of the bond to cover the cost that was actually borrowed. You guys did not use all of that capacity, that bonding capacity through ANRC. So we've been kind of tricky. We've been meeting and working on that. The city has bond counsel in Little Rock who has been representing us in this transaction. We've been working with him, with Ryan Bowman, who's been here before. But in the next month or two, Mayor, I can't remember if that was February that we talked about or March.
February.
So in February, about a month's time, that'll be a little less than a month's time, 3 weeks. That'll be coming for the city council to close out that, do that bond swap. Golf course transfer documents. Those are nearing completion. I think that'll be done this month since the project is over. We are, by settlement agreement of the lawsuit from a few years back, once that project was done, we decommissioned the system. We're handing over the equipment that's on the golf course to the golf course. We're deeding over the property where the two small power plants sit. We're retaining a utility and ingress and egress easement. And so those have been drafted and prepared, trading versions back and forth, but I expect that to be done this month, and I'll have a confirmation for you all, if not by the work session next week, by the meeting later in the month. And then the last thing is if you all remember, right before the end of the last year, the city, we came forward with a number of drainage recommendations, and then we put that into a temporary ordinance that expires, so we could do code changes to put those into effect. We're working on those. We met, last time we met was just a week ago, or I think maybe it was right before the snow hit. But we've been working on a regular basis, trying to get those changes into effect. So that's ongoing, but that'll be coming up in the next month or two. Any questions for me?
Thank you.
Next. Justin, I do actually have one question. Could you just briefly speak to the issue that Jerry has flagged? Do you have an opinion on that?
I mean, I've thought of that a little bit. I mean, the alternative to that is obviously you continue to build up interest, right? Mike, what is the interest billed at? 14 or 15%? Is that what the
IRS?
Yeah, IRS.
7% now, last I saw.
7%?
Compounded daily.
Okay, yeah, compounds daily. So I think the idea on bringing it forward was because of that. The numbers always growing. You know, obviously this is a procedure that I'm not terribly familiar with. I've talked to Jeremy about it before. I looked into it a little bit. You know, I don't think there's necessarily a problem with at least waiting until the next meeting. If you wanted to have some more information about it, I would likely want to consult with Jake and some of his colleagues on whether that would be potentially possible. But I do know one of the problems has been is that this thing's just accruing all the time, and we've seen that before. We try to get the payoffs, and you know the number goes up a week later. So that was my only concern. My concern is on the little that I've looked at is that the ability to recover may be somewhat narrow, and I just don't know. I can't reliably say, yeah, we would certainly be able to recover those funds through that mechanism.
But recovery side, does it actually preclude some kind of finding liability or something like that? If it was found that there's somebody responsible for that, or
I imagine it has to be processed through the IRS, right? There has to be a process through the IRS through which liabilities is
The trust fund recovery penalty is a way for the Internal Revenue Service to recover the income tax, Social Security, Medicare, and health of the employees. Now that's an internal thing. There would be an investigation that would have to be done. My understanding is that there's not very many revenue officers in the state now, so I don't know how that is done at this time. I did it all the time when I was with the service, but I don't know how many there are now and what kind of time frame it would be. It will not be quick.
So what about waiting a week and then seeing what we can find in a week?
I'm sorry?
Waiting a week, and then the next council meeting would be what, 3 weeks now, because we're on short.
Right.
Seeing what we can find in the next 3 weeks. And then
Well, the IRS will have to initiate an investigation, so somebody would have to contact them and make a call what's going on. And then again, I don't know how that investigation would be conducted at this time.
But to answer the question, I mean, I wouldn't want to talk with Jake and some of his colleagues, but I don't think that will necessarily, that's something that can happen before the next meeting. I can maybe give you some collective advice on that, but as far as I know, it won't substantially hurt us to wait at the very minimum of a week, unless Jake, would stand up and say otherwise. So I think it would be possible having more information and maybe a good report. Admittedly, this is not something that's everybody in the house. I have not done that procedure before.
They would have to initiate a case investigation to collect the back taxes, and chances are, if the city refused to pay it, then we could be looking at enforcement on that end of it too. They're not just going to do a trust fund recovery penalty because it would help the city pay their back taxes.
I just know from everything that I've done before, once it's paid, you're not giving them to even look at it. So, but I would say let's get full information, take a week. Maybe we can get back to the work session in about 4 or 3 weeks.
All right.
Any further questions? Thank you. Clerk's report. Okay. And the mayor's report, and I don't have anything tonight. Next is public comments. Do we have anyone here that wishes to make comments? We have, I've been asked that we limit comments to 3 minutes. Would you mind, Tommy?
My phone's at 18%, I think I got it.
And that's just so that everyone has a chance and we keep things moving.
3 minutes is a lot longer, it seems like.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll be very short. My name is Kim Eagle. I live at 1110 Hickory Street in Cape Springs. And I just am wondering what the hierarchy is. I thought the municipal league was over, that's like the next step from the city that we report
League
to.
is an organization that cities can choose to join, but it's like a trade organization. It's not a hierarchy over.
Okay. Well, that was the question. But how you were saying that, Jeremy, that it wasn't an audit from the municipal league.
No, from the legislative audit, just because
Well,
it's called legislative audit, it doesn't mean that it's an audit.
Right. But Landmark also said it was not an audit.
That's correct.
But you said you would believe him over
we
the
asked him to do a
legislature.
set of agreed upon procedures to examine the liabilities which he tied back. That is more of an audit scope than what this is.
Okay.
So he took the payroll registers, the reports. That was never done in this.
I just question
I
over,
understand.
why you believe
Yeah, my name is Jake.
somebody you pay. No, I said Jeremy.
Oh, I know. I was just going to mention that I think the term audit and legislative audit is the use of the term there is what they're coming in, they're looking over what the city is doing. That's why they're using that same verb audit, but audit has a very specific meaning when it comes to finance and accounting. And I think that's where the discrepancy is. And I think what Jeremy is saying is that, legislative audit is not an actual, am I getting this right, Jake?
So legislative audit, they can do either an audit or they can do an agreed upon procedures. Those are the two items that are laid out in the code that legislative audit can perform. As Jeremy pointed out, the report says unaudited, so obviously by process of elimination, they didn't agree upon procedures. Agreed upon procedures is the exact same thing that I did.
Right.
However, our scope was very, very specific. I would have to read an engagement letter from legislative audit to know exactly what they did. Looking at their prior reports and some of the findings they had, they were very, very specific to the municipal accounting code and items that are not followed there. That seems to be what their focus is. Their focus is also on receipts and disbursements, the summary of the report of receipts and disbursements. They actually call it financial
Yeah, financial and compliance report.
Yeah, finance and compliance report.
So whenever they're saying certain limited procedures with respect to cash basis financial information, they are not examining any liabilities. They are not going back to tax returns and payroll registers and tying those back out to the 941s that are filed.
Okay.
That is not in the scope of what this is, but that is in the scope of what we asked them to do,
Okay.
which is the big difference.
Okay. I just the, I guess, anger in the room is quite obvious.
It's a lot to grasp.
It is. It is. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, next item is to follow up, and I think we addressed a little bit, but we have been, I've been working with McClellan some, and we've got a couple of the drainage areas, one where it flooded and damaged some houses, and it turns out that somehow the drainage facility should have been transferred to the city, and it was being held elsewhere. And we are looking at what that area needs as far as drainage repairs, and they're looking at, as he mentioned, updating some of our drainage manuals where we'll have a little better guidance on procedures and processes as we move forward. Next item is the ordinance to vacate the unnamed or the 20-foot wide unnamed alley and a portion of a 50-foot wide right-of-way, and this is off of Midway. Do I hear a motion to suspend the rules and put this on third reading by title only?
Yes.
Got a motion by Mike. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Jeremy. Roll call.
JJ,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Erica. Yes. Mark.
Yes.
Okay, that passed. Next, I would entertain a motion to approve. Oh, you've got to read it first. Yes.
Ordinance number 1, correct?
It is ordinance number 1.
Ordinance number 2026-1, City of Cave Springs, Benton County, Arkansas, an ordinance to vacate an unnamed 20-foot wide alley, a portion of a 50-foot wide right-of-way, retaining a 15-foot wide utility and ingress and egress easement that runs north and south along the eastern portion of the vacated 50-foot right-of-way, with such vacated alley and right-of-way all located to the northeast of Midway Avenue, City of Cave Springs, Arkansas.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
A motion by Mike. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Jeremy. Discussion?
I just had a comment. I understand this probably took longer than some people would have preferred, but as a city, we have to do what's in the best interest of the city. And so I thank the family for maintaining something that we clearly didn't.
Okay. And I'll be recusing myself because I represent the Haney's and help them prepare this application.
Any other comments? Roll call.
So did you vote the first time?
I just voted for the read only.
Okay, so it's a 5-0 the first vote there?
It was.
Okay. Mike?
Yes.
JJ? Jeremy?
Yes.
Erica? Yes. Mark?
Yes.
And that's a 4-0 pass. And is there an emergency clause on vacation?
No, there is not. It's a 30-day period.
Okay, then that could pass. Next item on the agenda is the declaration of the council vacant